Hello and welcome back to the Future of Figure Skating. My name's Anna Keller, and my guests today are Gabriella Papadakis, back on the podcast, and Madison Hubbell. These two Olympic ice dancers have recently teamed up to do some shows together, skating as a team for the first time. It's really exciting to see what two women partnering together can look like, but also I was really glad to be able to talk to them about their advocacy for opening up skating to teams of any gender and the ways that their own performance here has helped them to think about what is possible for others in the future. Gabi's also written a blog post recently going into the case for same-sex teams, and I encourage you to read that. But please enjoy this short conversation that we had at Art on Ice, and I hope that you enjoy it and seek out their performance as well. So, Gabi and Maddie, thank you so much for talking to me a little bit about your program and your work together. I talked to Gabi a few months ago when this was in progress, and now you've had your first show last night. And so, how are you feeling having now presented to an audience?
Well, last night was very exciting for me. It's my first time participating in Art on Ice, and it's been a long time for me to be in front of such a big crowd and skating. Um, but it was very fun in a way, like nerve-wracking, but fun to be back in that feeling, and a nice challenge to be experiencing that with a friend and somebody that I'm not usually out there with. So it was nice and lived up to my expectations of how it would feel sharing the ice with Gabi.
Hey. Yeah, how about you, Gabi? How did it feel?
Felt awful.
I hated it.
No. Obviously, it was great. I mean, it's a show that I love doing. I think it's my sixth tour, if I'm not mistaken. So it's always great to be here and being back here and being with all the other people that I know a lot. It's kind of like a family Art on Ice for me, so it's nice being back and to be able to be back with Madison and just to do something new and different is also quite amazing. And I was just, yeah, it was nerve-wracking, of course, because I mean, you haven't skated in front of an audience for 2 years. Me much less than that, like I think over 6 months, but for me it's a lot. I
Mhm.
don't think I've spent, yeah, I don't think I've spent that much time without performing in my life. So anyway, all to say that it was also a bit nerve-wracking for me for all these reasons, but it was also, I was trying to remind myself also of like, this is a passion project, this is something that we do for fun and because we want to do it. And I'm super happy to be here, so I tried to mostly have fun and I've managed to, obviously. And I'm just excited to do the other shows.
Great. So you haven't had a huge amount of time, to work together and to build this program. And so I'm curious about that process and how you're now feeling in terms of presenting something to an audience that maybe is a little less smooth around the edges than what you would have done for the competitive program, for example.
Well, I think I can speak for both of us when I say that part of the inspiration for this comes from wanting to see change in the sport and wanting to see more opportunities for people who maybe don't find the perfect partner in the opposite gender, and to explore what it looks like to have more participants. Um, and the reality is that talking with some of my young students over the last 2 years, that this could have been an option for them. Part of that fear to do it is to be the first and for it to be imperfect and for people to judge. And so who am I to try and urge them to do it if I'm unwilling to put out a product that's less than perfect? So I'm trying to keep that in mind. Of course, the last time people saw me skate, I was in the shape I was at the Olympic Games, and it took me 26 years to cultivate that. But this is something completely separate. Um, it's more about what we can create in this um, environment and this particular set of circumstances, and to open the conversation to say, this is what is possible for us in a few weeks. Um, and to see the positive response from the crowd and hopefully inspire some other people to say, you know what, I think I want to invest more time and my own passion into a similar project.
You said the change that you want to see in the sport. Can you tell me a little bit about that vision and that inspiration?
I mean, both of us probably have something to say. No, I think for me, it's just that I love ice dance. I love so many things about it. It's given me a wonderful life and friends and colleagues and my husband and, mostly all very positive things. But I also know that I was very fortunate. I skated with my brother for 11 years, which was a very like healthy and fun relationship between us. And then I didn't even actually have to post myself on that dating-ish looking site of Ice Partner Search. I just had Zachary walk into the rink one day and show up, and we were a great pair. So I have kind of a Cinderella story of ice dance, and that's just not the reality for so many people. And even one of my very best friends I grew up skating with, she had multiple partners and it kept dissolving and not working out. And inevitably, she retired from sport before she would have wanted to because she never found the right solution. And so um, for me, it's opportunity that there is no reason in my mind of why not. And so we have to open that door and let people explore.
Yeah, I think it's similar for me. I think it's the same. Like I've had the opportunity to have a great career, and I'm super happy for that. And I think with it comes responsibility to certain visibility, and it's now that I'm retired and I'm thinking about my career and all the great things, but also everything that I've seen and maybe other people that I've competed alongside or trained alongside that didn't have the chances that I had. Um, for many 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 reasons, and it's thinking about that and thinking about sometimes the talents we lost because they didn't get those opportunities to. For me, it's about just expanding and diversifying the scope of people that can get to experience ice dance.
Yeah. With such a shortage of male partners, if that's who you have to pick, do you feel like that influences other parts of the experience of being a female ice dancer and, knowing that you are lucky to have anyone?
I think it's impossible to separate that in the human psyche, especially when you're growing up. I think you feel that pressure, and you're most of the time not old enough and not mature enough to really process that. Again, I was very fortunate. I had a partnership with my brother, and so my parents were there to guide me, and I didn't grow up within that construct, that the very traditional way. But certainly, seeing young girls do tryouts now, there is a little bit of like oh, I hope he picks me without any question of, do I want to pick him? And I think that would be the same no matter where, when there's that much of a imbalance of opportunity. Um, so yeah, I think it would be interesting to see what happens when there are so many more options, and maybe people would be held to a higher standard and ask themselves a little bit more if this is really the right environment for me.
As a coach now, as in how do you feel like when you see your students or people who are coming together, you're coaching in Canada now where it is allowed to have open, they have open gender, the partners at any gender. Um, with that rule removed, what barriers do you think are still in place that need to change?
Well, I think there's still a tendency to enter into this career knowing that it takes, especially in ice dance, it takes usually 15, 20 years of hard work and financial input and all of that from a family. It takes all that time to get to the ultimate goal, which most kids start their career saying, I'll be world champion, I'll be Olympic champion. That is what I'm here for. It's a sport that is built around that dream, I believe, in my experience. And I think that as wonderful as it is, and I'm happy that Canada has taken that step, I think now the burden falls upon the ISU to figure out how to open the door up into those more international and, those events that the kids dream about participating in, because you're asking families to invest many years and tens of thousands of dollars and all of this effort, and to imagine that you become extremely successful, the top of Canada, and you won't be allowed to participate internationally doesn't really make sense. But I do have a lot of faith, talking with the ISU representatives, and I have faith that this is the direction that they want to go, and they're very open to it. It's just more a matter of trying to figure out how the rules will work. And to be honest, somebody needs to try it and be willing to take that chance to figure out how it's going to work.
So I think in an open competition, either of you can answer, that you could have, I think the way Canada set up the rules, just couples all together. I had a conversation with the head of the singleton pairs technical committee, who his mind immediately went to, well, we'd have to have 3 fields for 2 women, 2 men, and mixed gender. And that didn't sit right with me, but I thought it was interesting that his mind immediately went to that place. And so do you feel like for an ace dance, could it all be combined, or do you think it should be separate?
I think it's not an answer that we have, that anybody has, and that anybody can have right now. I think we need to try it, see how it goes, and see how it evolves. I think everybody wants it to be equal, and different people have different opinion on how it can be. Either it's in the same category or either it's in different categories. I don't personally want to commit to an answer because I don't have one.
Yeah.
I think it's something that I think I think Canada is trying to put them all in the same category and see if they want to keep it like that, if that makes sense, or if it makes more sense to separate them when there are more couple competing. But yeah, I think it's just something that we'll see with time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for the sake of a beginning, I think for me, I would just open it in the same category, because also you don't want to invest your time to be competing against yourself. And there's very few teams that are, even starting to dabble into this idea. And so, it's going to take some very brave young people who say it's okay if the system and the rules that are currently set in place don't work for me, and I might skate an amazing program and come last. That might be the case. But I think in some way that would make waves, and they could be like the people that start to really change the sport by everyone seeing a performance that's like revolutionary and interesting, and the audience is really behind it, and then all of a sudden the scoring system doesn't work to represent what they accomplished. I think that in itself would instigate figuring out how to make this happen. So I guess my answer is that it should be all the same category for now, but I don't see it as unequal to separate the categories, because it's going to come down to how the value system could work so that it does actually fairly judge the skills.
Yeah.
I'm curious about you learning lifts also, because that is the big shift in a skill. For being probably had not had to previously. Yeah.
Well, I was actually, growing up, I think because my brother and I, we didn't have to fill that very generic gender role of delicate female and strong male. I had coaches that really pushed me to see my limits, and even as a young skater in intermediate and novice levels, they were having me try to lift my brother, and my brother was extremely flexible and mobile, so we played with that that possibility of doing both roles. So I had very little experience, but some. I wasn't too afraid of trying. That being said, the moment that we decided to skate together was also like, I don't know how many months after having a child. So I did have my doubts that lifting someone in a spread eagle was going to be safe for me. But we've come this far.
Good job.
Thank you. So yeah, certainly in the terms of what level it would get, what score it would get in an actual competition, it's a very basic lift.
To be fair, we've tried both
Yes.
options. I've tried lifting her, but we said that we needed a bit more than 3 weeks for me to learn how to lift.
Future project.
It's a future, yeah.
Project. Yeah.
If we're back at
I'm
Art on
still
Ice,
down, but
yeah.
like I'll need
Yeah.
a bit longer.
Yeah. If we do Art on Ice 2026,
Yeah.
Gabi, it will feature a lift where Gabi lifts me.
Round the neck.
Yeah, little
Additional lift.
Yeah, super.
Sure.
But no, I had some trepidations just because of, being less physically fit and strong than I was when I was at the Olympics, and your body changes and everything. So luckily I have a very trusting partner. I never dropped her.
No.
I did kind of lay her gently onto the ice doing our spin on a number of occasions. But luckily she was always very gracious and was ready to try again. So like
I think I just knew what I got into.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, she's never lifted anybody.
Yeah.
It's risky.
Yeah. So, but no, I think that, it's a skill like anything else. As somebody who doesn't work on a bracket, like, I mean, this is maybe too shady, but in freestyle, in singles, they're not working on brackets the way they do in ice dance. So like when I would ask a single skater to do a bracket like an ice dancer would, it's not in their skill set. So I don't know how to lift someone because I don't work on that. But I think it would be really interesting to start from a very young age. And I mean, they do it all the time in Cirque. They do it in so many disciplines. It's definitely possible.
I think there's also this idea that lifts requires strength.
Yes, and not all of them do.
I think it's more technique than strength.
Yeah.
I think, and so there's no reason why, it couldn't be done.
Yeah.
It takes a huge amount of strength from. I mean, it does take strength from both partners too. It's
Yes.
not like
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's mostly technique.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gabi, in your essay that you wrote, you also talked about how you thought that having same-sex or open gender teams could help the sport as a whole to give popularity as well and being beneficial to the skaters. And then I'm curious how you're thinking about that now, and as you're seeing the response to your partnership.
Yeah, I think for me, in the way that I learned skating when I was young, it was very traditional in the sense that I was taught from a very young age that the boys would lead, the girls would follow. There was very different expectations for boys and girls. Like it was for women it was being sexy and fragile and elegant, and for men it was very different. It was strong, but there wasn't necessarily a lot of space to like dance and as much as the girls would have. And there was this whole that was like the normal way of skating when I was young, and it took me a really really long time to start questioning it. It's something that I've played along and something that I've accepted for a very long time. And I think it was maybe at the end of my career that Guillaume and I were like, well, I don't know actually about that, and it was just something that didn't feel like it was interesting to us to participate in anymore. But it's true that although we try, we deconstructed a lot of things and we tried to do our own thing, we still had habits and that were very, that were anchored in us for so many years. And I think it's the case for many couple and many, I guess, mixed gender couple. I think it's the case. And I think I think for me, it's just like exploring dancing with Maddie. It's just like we had no habits. There was no script that I knew how to follow, and it was in a way very freeing. And I think even choreographing and improvising is just like, suddenly she'll be in front of me. At some point she'll be behind me. It's not something that I'm used to experience, because I think, when I dance with a man, it's like I go directly to what I'm used to, and certain places and certain things. And I think just seeing different ways of skating, and seeing just same-sex pairs that just like uh choreograph and dance in ways that are like completely genderless, obviously. I think it could inspire also different gender couple that would not necessarily feel like they fit into that script, and be inspired to try different things, and yeah. So I think it could be good for everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As you were thinking about the kind of image that you wanted to present with this program, you traditionally ice dance, there's a certain expectation of a kind of feminine presentation that the women are expected to have. You feel like you were able to experiment a little bit more, or how did you kind of approach how you wanted to be? I mean, it sounds so shallow, but there's so much that we put into that sort of surface level in those skatering as well.
Well, I think, especially for this project, there was kind of a specific direction when it came to the music and the choreography and the point we were in the story of the show. And so we were maybe steered into a direction that maybe looks traditionally soft, intimate. There's an intimate quality. It's kind of a conversation, a discussion between self and self-acceptance. And so I think that maybe it does fit more into the traditional ice dance aesthetic, because, we're wearing two dresses, which people are going to say are two women's costumes, and we flow together. The way that we flow across the ice is more feminine by what they usually decide is that standard. But I think it suits the song. It suits the vision of the whole piece. If we were to make a different project at another time, I think it would be interesting to explore more in the way of the aesthetic and a costume, and something that maybe was a little bit more staccato and powerful, and a different skating style. But I don't think that uh, I didn't go into the program saying move like a woman, right? So I think it kind of just, we followed the melody of the music, and this is what came out of us naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, I think mostly like and it's a personal journey that I'm on too. It's like, to embrace my relationship with gender and my relationship with myself in a more with more and more freedom, as I let go of things that I've been taught, or things that I've just imitated without really thinking about it. And I think, I'm someone who loves to play with different energies, whether they're feminine or masculine, and both very much equally. So I think it's when we dance, and yes, even if we are more typically feminine, it still comes from a very authentic place, because it's what we felt like at the moment. And it's a choice, and it's authentic.
Well, I'm excited to hear you talk about also the potential for future projects. Do you feel like maybe not the end of this collaboration?
Yeah, I think for us, we're taking it, with a lot of gratitude that we're here, to be honest.
Yeah, we never expected to be here. So people are like,
yeah,
"Is
right.
it the beginning of something?" I'm like, "This is
I don't.
already a
Yeah,
lot."
right. Yeah, right. So like we always had wanted to skate together. I love skating. I love performing, but I'm also loving the fact that I'm coaching full time, and I started a family. And so certainly we both have very full personal lives and a lot of passion projects on the side. I think, as kind of the media has been excited about this and there's been a lot of attention on it and this question of, is it the only time? Are you going to do it again? For us, we're waiting for what kind of lands at our door, the same as this, and decide if it's the right time for us. But neither one of us are opposed to future projects. And certainly, I feel that I would love to continue this project also when it comes to coaching. I would love to be someone that could help young couples explore what this means and try and, shape this sport in a different way. And hopefully we'll have some young couples at our school very soon.
That's very exciting. Is there anything that I didn't ask but you would want to add? I'm good. I'm good. Well, I'm very excited to see you perform tonight. Thank you. Thank you. I'm forward to it. Well, yeah, thanks so much to decide.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again to Gabi and Maddie and to the Art on Ice team for facilitating this interview. Thanks also to Yvonne Donaluk for filming and video production. You can reach me with comments or suggestions by email at fsfuturepodcast@gmail.com, on Instagram at FutureFSPodcast, or on Blue Sky at Future of FS. If you appreciate the podcast, you can also support my work with the tip jar at futureoffigureskating.pinecast.co. Remember to subscribe and review the Future of Figure Skating on whatever platform you use and share it with your friends.